What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my analysis and review of our latest Anima Mythic Freyr. I'll also be going over my Anima tier list and what to expect next month in FE. So Freyr, I did expect him because we did have the sprite changes of him in the data mine, and Aether didn't really get her tactic drill and she's connected to Freya. So I expected that Freyr would be the mythic unit because we do have the book 4 Tempest Trial story. So Freyr is a blue beast cavalier who's an Anima Mythic who can boost up the attack, which is really helpful on bridal catcher teams. And Freyr is going to be having a cleansing effect, as we just saw with his petals. So he has a very unique effect and he's going to be a meta influential unit because of that effect. So he has got Dream Horn as his preferred weapon, which gives him minus on special cooldown, and at start of combat, if his HP is at or above 25%, then he can inflict attack and defense debuff on the foe, depending on half of the highest total bonuses among himself and the allies within 3 spaces plus 6. And then he also gets a guaranteed follow-up attack in the combat and also has 30% damage reduction, including AoE specials. So this weapon is pretty good for a slow beast cavalier, giving that guaranteed follow-up attack, giving him that damage reduction to be annoying. And then the transformation effect is same as Arcane Nihility, which is the updated beast cavalier effect. So at start of turn, if he's adjacent to a non-human ally, then he can transform, otherwise he reverts, and if he transforms, then he gets +2 attack, and also inflicts the -X attack and defense debuff on the foe, which is basically attack defense clash 2, which goes up to 6 debuff. And then if the space is moved by whoever initiated is 2 or more, then he can get 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack. So this damage reduction does stack up with the damage reduction in his primary effect, which is going to be making him bulky, but a lot of times he's not going to be able to be transformed in a lot of scenarios and in a lot of teams because he doesn't really come with a beast skill that can make it easy for him to be transformed. So his primary weapon is pretty much what is going to be active a lot of time, ideally. And of course you can try and put a dragon unit beside him or a beast unit like for Mortis to make sure that he can transform, and then he can get even more attack and defense debuff, which is going to be helping him. But this weapon is definitely not the thing that makes or breaks him. He comes with Ignis, attack defense clash 4, and also lull attack defense 4, which is really good, and it is a pretty nice skill for Diamant at high investment, and also on Legendary Leaf, who's also present in the Hollow Forms right now. So it's a pretty nice skill, and you can actually get both of these if you use the Summer Freyr Combat Manual, and if you have a Bright Flavia, so you can get both of these skills. And finally comes his slotsy skill, Dream Deliverer, which is going to be making or breaking him, which in my opinion does make him into a pretty meta influential unit. So at start of player phase or enemy phase, if unit is within 2 spaces of an ally, neutralizes any penalty that takes effect on unit or allies within 2 spaces of unit at this time. Now this cleanses False Start, which means that he is going to be an Elimine counter. Now how can I tell that this cleanses False Start? The wording is pretty similar to that of the weapon of Gregor and also Valentine Leo. So basically the effect that Elimine has got with her weapon is at start of turn. It's not at start of phase, but the Dream Deliverer is at start of phase. So what is probably going to be happening is that Elimine is going to be false starting Bridal Catria or even Freyr, and he's going to be cleansing the false start in the player phase itself. You can kind of test this out by having Elimine against a Gregor, and even if you false start Gregor, he's still going to be able to debuff Elimine and buff himself up in his player phase. Same goes for Valentine Leo. If you false start a Valentine Leo in his player phase, he's still going to be able to gravity the units that have less resistance than them and also debuff them. So we can kind of already test this out, and I'm pretty confident that this does cleanse false start because they would be extremely stupid, to put it lightly, to release an Anima Mythic right before Tutor Legends, especially an Anima Mythic that specializes in cleansing debuffs and does not cleanse False Start. And as it is, OCs of Fire Emblem don't really sell all that well on these banners, and this is not even like a recent OC. So that's why even if you just go on the wording or just the business side of things, I don't really think that this is not going to be countering False Start, because Elimine had her thing for a couple of years, and now we have the counter. That's pretty much been the thing with Fire Emblem Heroes, where you create a problem and then you sell the solution. So that is pretty much the solution that we're seeing right now. So Freyr is going to be able to counter Elimine and be a pretty good asset for a lot of Battle Catcher teams, and that is going to be making him a meta influential unit. Now his support is not really limited to that. At start of turn, if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he can grant +6 defense and resistance buff and resonant shields effect to unit and allies within 2 spaces of himself for 1 turn, which is extremely good. The defense buff and the resistance buff is going to be making the units bulky, and so is the resonant shields effect, which does give you the follow-up negation for the first combat. And then finally, if unit is within 3 spaces of an ally, then it grants him +4 defense and resistance in combat, and also gives him the guard effect in the combat. So this guard skill, along with his attack and defense debuff, are going to be making him pretty bulky unit, but against any kind of competent tank that has null follow-up effect, he's not going to be able to get the guaranteed follow-up attack or the follow-up negation from resonant shields, but still he is going to be able to live a lot of times, which may open Wings of Mercy shenanigans, which is going to be interesting in itself. So that is going to be Freyr, and something what I wanted to go over, and I wanted to show, the wording of this skill is pretty much, hinting that it is going to be countering Elimine and a false start. So that is going to be Freyr, a very meta influential unit in the Anima season, and he is going to be able to be a really good friend to a lot of Battle Catcher teams and function by cleansing the debuffs. His sprite is same as we've seen before. He doesn't really tackle the enemy, he just shoots the beam. I find the tackling to be a lot more satisfying, like how Asker does it. And he just takes out Elm here. Why? Why take out Elm? Just pair him up against, at least I wish they did the matchup against Freya, because that is an impossible matchup. I don't think anyone is going to be running Freya in Astra season. So yeah, that is Freyr. And overall, I do think that he is going to be a top tier mythic unit. And that is, par for the course. Right before Tutor Legends, they are going to be releasing this kind of meta unit so that people do spend orbs. And his fodder is also really good with attack defense clash and little attack defense. And he's going to be an amazing Ether Rates defense mythic unit with the Catria balls and for countering Elimine's false start. And he's going to be bulky with his attack shredding, and he can get a lot of attack debuff, which is nothing to scoff at. The only thing that is kind of a disadvantage is that he's a slow beast cavalier, which is not the best thing for a Ether Rates defense mythic unit. The reason being is that because of being a cavalier, many times he might just overextend out of the Catria ball compared to someone like Medius, for example. Now, even though Freyr does do a lot of things for Catria balls, it's not like Catria balls are invincible team archetype. They are beatable. If you have seen my Ether Rates videos, I've encountered a lot of Catria balls, and so have you if you have played Ether Rates in a couple of these years. You can player phase them, you can gale force them, you can hit and run against them, you can even tank them if they do lack firepower, and if you have a right tank to tank the Catria ball. And you can also use Bolt Tower, which is a thing in the Astro season. And Bridal Catcher teams don't really have a Medius in the Anima season to protect them from the Bolt Tower. So against these kinds of low threat range teams, you can always utilize these strategies and take your time to set up your units, and especially use Bolt Tower, which is a resource you can use. And Bridal Catcher teams will pretty much have to depend on Catapult or Duma to destroy your Bolt Tower. Otherwise, they're going to be getting cooked up by the Bolt Tower, and then you can go in and easily take out their far-safe tanks and a lot of their units. There is also Gatekeeper, who is useful against Battle Catcher teams and just stops the teleportation. And Gatekeeper is going to be getting a weapon refined in September, so he can become even better support unit. So all of those things are there to deal with the Battle Catcher teams. And even though Elimine cannot false start Freyr teams, she's not completely useless, because she can still provide support from her Slotsy skill and can provide you the 30% damage reduction. So that is still something that you can try and use and tank against a Battle Catcher team if you have some kind of God Sword or some kind of Omni tank or just a safe team in general. So that's something you can still do. Catcher balls, it's just that they are a lot better now because Elimine is not going to be able to false start Battle Catria basically, and Freyr is going to be cleansing that. Now, just like when Elimine came out, a lot of the units and a lot of effects got hit in the crossfire. She was there to counter Battle Catria, but units like Duma, Ocher also got hit in the crossfire. Similar to that, Freyr also comes in, cleanses false start, but also cleanses a lot of effects. He can cleanse the penalties, he He can cleanse the panic, he can cleanse sabotage effects, exposure. There's so many penalties that are available. Any kind of negative status, he's gonna be cleansing that. So basically Anima teams can be panic proof, debuff proof, which is gonna be annoying many times because a lot of your schools are not gonna be working. If you gravity someone with your tactics room, then that's gonna be getting cleansed as well. So all of those things are gonna be annoying with Freyr, so that's something that you have to watch out for. And as for Freyr himself, if you're gonna be building him up, I don't think he needs like too much of a change to his kit. He works fine, but if you're gonna be using him in summoner duels, then you can definitely try and give him Beast and Trace so that he can transform easily and be even more bulky. And defense res ruse or any kind of ruse skill is gonna be functioning on a dancer trap because these battle catcher teams with Freyr are gonna be isolation proof, because as long as you put your dancer within 2 spaces of Freyr, Freyr is gonna be cleansing the isolation status from Brattle Fjorm, for example. So dancer trap teams are gonna be something that you might be seeing, and they might be just rushing you down. But then again, you can use safe tanks against those teams or just omni tanking, and sometimes you can even Gale Force them with something like Summer Edelgard, for example. So that's also something you have to consider with Freyr. And for his Sacred Seal, you can go with Attack Defense Catch, Attack Defense Solo, or you could just buff up the allies with Attack Tactic or Defense Tactic on top of the buffing that he does from his Slotsy skill. And Squad Ace BT3 is also a pretty good Sacred Seal that can give you extra HP and attack and defense. So that's also a Sacred Seal that he can run. So I would put Freyr in tier 1 because he's an amazing support unit, and he also does what, any kind of Anima Mythic was expected to do, which is like counter Elimine, which is what he does. Not only that, he also counters a lot of other things like isolation and any kind of panic and all of those things. So that just makes him a solid support unit, and also buffs up his team with Resonant Shields and the defense and resistance buff. On top of that, giving the attack buff to the Catcher Bolts is perfect because of their Brave effect. And he is going to be able to counter Elimine because of the at start of phase effect that he has got in his Slotsy, and because Elimine's effect is at start of turn. Then in tier 1, I would also have Mortis, who's also a really solid armor unit who is functional in summoner duels as a solid Far Savior, and also functional in Ether Raids as a solid Far Savior and a Near Savior. So when a mythic unit can fulfill like different roles, it's always good. And that is for Mortis. Not only he's a mythic, but he can also function as a near savior or far savior of your team. And he can also end the actions of the enemy's units if you fail to kill him, which is just perfect when we have stuff like Fallen Maria, for example. It's just that you have to watch out for Bolt Tower, which is something that Astra Anima season has to watch out for. And then in tier 1, I would also put Arvel. I think Arvel is a really solid nuke, and they are really good in summoner duels as well because of being able to function as an AoE nuke. And then in Ether Raid's defense, they're able to function as a nuke and also affect the opponents in 3 rows or 3 columns with the guard status, which is really good. So that is the support that Arvel can provide, which can be annoying. And then in tier 1, I would also have another unit in Mirabilis. So I would say that Mirabilis is also another really good mythic unit, and what I said about a mythic unit fulfilling multiple roles, Mirabilis does that as a dancer and as a mythic. And being a flying dancer, she has more options now with Guidance 4, with Firestorm Dance, with Soaring Guidance. All of these things are really good, and Mirabilis is actually going to be getting a remix and refine in September along with Hell. So she's going to be going up, honestly, if she gets a good refine and remix. So Mirabilis is also a unit I would put in tier 1, and the combination of, any of these 2 or 3 units can make for a really good mythic core in an Anima team. For Mortis can function as a savior, Arvel can function as a nuke, Mirabilis can function as a dancer, Freyr functions as a support unit and as a melee bruiser basically, but still Freyr is going to be susceptible to null follow-up enemies and doesn't really have a way of piercing through the damage reduction of many of the god swords, but he's going to be bulky enough. He's just shreds so much attack that, he's going to be so bulky with that. And then in tier 2, I would have Thrasier. I think that Thrasier's Refine and Remix was really good, and I've used her quite a bit in Ether Raid's defense, and even though she cannot really pierce through damage reduction, and she doesn't really have any kind of tempo effect, like Bramimon for example, she is still a lot better, and she can nuke much better now with that minus and special cooldown, with the, null follow-up effect that she gets from her weapon refine, and the fact that she can inflict exposure on the enemies. This is perfect. So even though she's not the top tier Anima Mythic unit, I think Thrasier is a lot better now after Refine and Remix, which is the purpose of those things. In tier 3, I would have Duma. So Duma has aged quite a bit. He was the first defensive mythic that we got, and still Duma is here in tier 3. The reason being is that he can destroy the structures of the enemies. And I think that Duma does get a bit better with Freyr, because Freyr can, cleanse the false start from Duma, and then he can just destroy the structures. So Duma can do that as his niche and just hit really hard with his Weapon Refine and Remix. And then we also have Lif here. So Lif also got a Weapon Refine and Remix, and even though he's not a ranged unit and not the most threatening unit, he can still pierce the damage reduction skills, which I think is decent enough, and he has gotten better. In tier 4, I would have Otter, who has fallen down a bit, and as someone who uses Otter a lot, he cannot really kill things in Summoner Duels S anymore. Things are too much bulky now, Brutal Shell is not enough, and same goes for Aetherades. Defense, unfortunately, people can stack up so much support, and there's just so many God Swords that Brutal Shell just doesn't do enough. And as a Cavalier, he doesn't really have too many options, and he doesn't really support his teammates, so that's why he's in tier 4. And then I've got Seros here. Now Seros, even though she is at the last, I don't think she's bad. You can still make her work out in a team if you have good nukes, like for a Catria Ball, but it's just that she doesn't really do as much as the mythics that are above her, and these are not very threatening Anima Mythics, simply. Overall, this banner is going to be giving you amazing value on the blue pool because we've got Rearmed Ingrid color sharing with Freyr, providing Guard Bearing 4, which is absolutely amazing. Slot B skill for physical flyers, and in my opinion, it's like the best slot B skill for them because they can become so bulky with that Guard Bearing 4, and it's such an upgrade from its tier 3 version. So Rearmed Ingrid is really good, and she can also be useful for skill duplication for guidance for any of the other flying skills that she can have access to. So she's really useful as a Rearmed unit, and Arcane Lewin is also a really good Arcane Lance, which is going to be helpful on many of these speedy Lance units in general. And blue also has Nerthus, who does have Alarm attack speed and attack speed clash, and she can function as a pretty decent unit in Aetherades offense as a Gale Force initiator, and also function in Summoner Duels. So blue is definitely pretty stacked and the most stacked. And colorless is also solid with Medias, Elimine, and Arval. Medias and Arval being solid defense mythics, and they're running Elimine on the same banner as the Elimine counter, which I find funny. Green does have Saline, who's an amazing support unit, but it does have older units like Thor and Eitri who have fallen down a bit. And red does have Malelir, who we did get for free, so if you're trying to get merges on him, then this could be a opportunity. But whenever we get a focus banner with him, it's gonna be much better to get him there because he's gonna be color sharing on this banner with Lina and Sigurd. Legendary Lina is still pretty strong, and Legendary Sigurd has obviously fallen down a bit, but still he's pretty nice as a legendary unit. Still, green and red might be lackluster for people depending on where your priorities are because of the older units that it color shares with. Next month, we're gonna be having the half anniversary Hero Fest like always, so Rearmed Grima is supposed to rerun in August, so I think that she might be part of the Hero Fest banner because she's a very popular unit, provides a good arcane weapon, provides hardy fighter, so I do think that she might be on there as they did say in the announcement. So maybe she's on the Hero Fest, and we might get a new Thief banner or just a new theme banner in general. And Chooser Legend 7 is of course going to be happening mid-August next month, so it is going to be a huge event. So a lot of people are going to be saving their orbs for that. And if that was not enough, Double Special Heroes banner is also going to be happening with Spring Carla most likely, Winter Dorothea. So August is a very stacked month, and that's why they're releasing a unit who can counter Elimine and her false start. Next month, we're also going to be getting a new Fire Legendary unit in the green pool most likely, color sharing with Legendary Male Robin and Legendary Ninian, so that's a really stacked color share, and this is pretty much going to be the banner that we're going to be having most likely. Rearmed Hannah is going to be color sharing unfortunately with Ashera and Ash. I kind of wish that she had a better color share as she's such a high value unit with that guidance 4 and again because of being a rearmed unit. But yeah, this is pretty much something that you can expect next month. So let me know what you think about this banner in the comment section down below, and what do you think about Freyr. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to share this with your friends if they're trying to pull on this banner. And if you didn't enjoy, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FE videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as penalties against Freyr. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.